Welcome to ACI Learning's Leadership Series. I'm Sophie Goodwin, and today we'll be talking about how, for better or worse, AI is impacting hiring. To help us do that is Jax Scott. She's a content creator, podcaster, YouTuber, founder of the cybersecurity education firm Outpost Gray. She's got a lot of titles and a lot of accomplishments to her name, and we're super excited to have her here with us. Jax, thank you so much for joining us.
Sophie, so excited. Always love to be able to sit down or stand and chat with you.
We're adding a little bit of dynamicism into our interviews. We're doing the standing desk now, so we'll see how it goes. But I want to go ahead and jump right into these questions because I mentioned to you before we started that when I think of AI impacting hiring, I think of like you send in your resume and it looks for certain words in the resume and then weeds out resumes based on that. But I know it goes so much beyond that. So how would you say that the integration of AI and automation in general in the hiring process can affect the way that certain candidates are chosen and then even evaluated for certain positions?
Oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about this area because I think that there are a lot of positives, which I will cover those, as well as some of the challenges that we're seeing. So one of the first positives with having AI be integrated into the hiring process is that HR as a whole has a really significant role within the organization, and they have a lot of responsibilities. They have a lot of not only the hiring, the firing, the management, the career management of individuals, just depending on how that organization is laid out. They take care of the payroll. There's a lot of things an HR person has to do. And sometimes hiring can be one of the most challenging things, and we've seen it within the cybersecurity space specifically, is because they don't understand what an entry-level position is, for example. And so where AI can be a huge help is that they can get a certain list of credentials, for example. I'll just use this for an example. It's an entry-level cybersecurity role, and they have a list of credentials and a list of skills that this individual needs to possess. And so what will happen is that resumes will be uploaded to a portal. They will then be filtered through an AI machine. The AI machine will then scan the resumes to see if there are a list of the skills or certifications, requirements that must be listed as part of the job requirement. And if this candidate has some of those skills, they will be then added to this pile for HR to meet with them before they go into the whole interview process. Now, that's extremely helpful because back in the day, which was like last year, but back in the day, they were actually having to physically print out these resumes. And think about it, on average, there would be over 1 to 200 individuals within the first week, usually applying for an entry-level job. And you as an individual, you're going to have to print every one of these and go through every single resume. Well, this is sped up the process by, 75 to almost 100% to allow these HR individuals to go through these resumes very, very quickly. So that's one of the overarching positives. Now, some of the biases, some of the challenges that we're seeing in this space is that we all know typically resumes can be challenging for people. I've seen it. I'm a veteran transitioning out of the military and into the civilian space. One of the key challenges that I see with veterans just in general is a very weak resume. So if they're uploading these very weak resumes, or they're not, another thing is maybe the resume isn't completely customized to that job and they're uploading it into this portal. Well, now the AI is going again, scanning through that resume. It's not catching those keywords, but let's say, and this happened to me, let's say the person has, 15 years of experience specifically in that role, but they're getting rejected because they didn't have the exact keywords or the exact characteristics that were needed for the AI to trigger and say, yep, this is a perfect candidate. We're going to put it in this pile. But instead, they're rejecting. And there was actually a survey done by the executives that they know that 75% of resumes that are going through the AI machine are getting kicked back. The executives are okay with that because they know that they're still hiring candidates. They also know they're reducing the work amount that HR personnel are going to have to do now. And so they're okay, even though they're losing 75%. And what's concerning about this is that I have personally witnessed from myself, but then also seeing vice presidents that are looking for jobs be rejected because their resume is not getting caught by the AI And so we have some challenges there, and we can talk about some ways that you can hack these systems to help you be able to get caught by we'll just say caught by the AI, to be put into that pile to be selected for that role, or just to make it to the first interview, for example. So that's like one of the key challenges that we're seeing within the space.
That's an interesting example you brought up about the resumes of veterans that might end up getting kicked back because they're not specifically tailored. That's a good example of one of those unconscious biases that I might not have thought of. So do you think it's possible at all to, I guess, strike a balance between using AI for all the benefits it can offer, like, streamlining recruitment and that kind of a thing, but still ensuring that fairness in hiring?
100%. Absolutely. Now, I think it's going to take time. Just like machine learning takes time. You put data in there, it learns by the machine learning. I think that any software that we put out, we see it all the time within technology. That's why it's called disruptive technology. It disrupts the space that we're in. And so I believe that if we're patient, and that if we work with this technology and we start expanding the language model, for example, and we start expanding the words that are being, like the terms, the key terms that are being utilized as part of that HR hiring for that entry level role, I think we're going to stop seeing such a large number of candidates being rejected. I also think the other factor is we need to educate the end users. We need to teach them how to actually leverage AI to help them create better resumes in a shorter period of time that are customized for these roles. And I'm starting to realize that a lot of individuals don't realize that they can use AI to upload the job description, for example, then upload their resume and then ask AI, help me refine my resume to be more in line with this role, and base it off of my experience. And I know from firsthand experience, talking to a woman, the vice president I was telling you about, who did this very thing. She had submitted all these resumes and they were all getting kicked back. She then took her resume and took the job, uploaded into Bard, the Google form of ChatGPT, and she submitted her resume to one job, and boom, she got an interview, and it's been off to the races ever since. So I think it's really important to be able to start teaching the end users to basically, let's learn how to leverage this software that isn't refined just yet to be in our favor, if that makes sense.
Now, we hear a lot about these unconscious AI biases, right? These unintended biases that come with AI. But unfortunately, for better or worse, there's also, of course, biases that come with some human hirers, right? You might have people going through resumes and not even realizing they're doing it. Maybe they're a little biased one way or the other towards certain groups. So do you think there are ways that AI might be able to help us reduce those unconscious human biases as well?
That's such a great perspective on this. I think anything that could be utilized for bad can be utilized for good, which means, we hear a lot about the negative biases within using AI in the hiring process, specifically with filtering out and doing these short list of candidates. And in doing that short list, a lot of times you are taking the individuals out due to age discrimination or various other types of discrimination that we're seeing. And a lot of times the reason that this is happening is because the code and how AI is generated, it's developed by a human, and humans are naturally biased. We are that way because of how we were raised and where we come from. And does not make us vindictive or malicious. It is just the natural way of how a human is designed. But I believe that with leveraging technology, this could be a way for us to bridge those biases and allowing technology to help us kind of broaden that scope. But we have to be willing to kind of open that up. And when we're developing this technology, I think some of the ways that we could be better at reducing those biases is going through and auditing that technology, understanding if there are a lot of candidates that are being rejected for a certain age, then let's refine that code where the age is not one of the factors, because we already are seeing that some of these candidates are getting kicked out because of, especially in cybersecurity, because of age is one of the key areas, or because of gender. We're seeing that as well. So let's use that data for the positive, go in and adjust this AI, this machine learning, so we can eliminate those biases. And I think that's just being conscious of it. And then also having leadership support that change instead of what we're seeing right now. The executives are so busy that 75% of them know that a lot of these are getting rejected. A lot of these resumes are getting rejected. And I kind of feel like they're like, I mean, that's unfortunate, but instead let's take ownership and figure out a solution to this, because AI is not going away. It is the future in a lot of ways. And it is the future, I think, to help us with the hiring process. But we need to really work together and ensure we reduce those biases and even eliminate them.
I think that's a great point about being able to use something like this. You can use it for negative purposes, but you can also use it for the positive. And I think it's not the tool, it's just the hands that it's in and how you're using it. So I think that's a great point to bring up. And I think we're seeing AI impact a lot of jobs and fields and processes, and hiring is no exception, right? And it seems like the more popular and widespread that AI becomes, the more people want to incorporate that. It's this cool new thing, people want to incorporate it. So as AI continues to evolve, are there certain skills and qualities do you think are going to become more important for job seekers to stand out in this new environment?
So AI is not going away. I will continue to say that over and over again, because I think we're kind of in this battle right now as individuals in the technology space of not wanting the change to happen, but it's going to happen. And so the best advice that I could give to anybody listening or watching this right now is that get educated in AI, understand the capabilities, and it will help you within your future roles, especially if you're working in cybersecurity. An example that I will provide. So I used to do cyber threat intel. That was my full-time 100% job. I kind of dabble in it now, but AI wasn't a big thing couple of years ago. But I will tell you that I can already see the power and the advantage of being able to leverage AI to be able to take indicators of compromise, for example, be able to ask ChatGPT. Now, I've never tried this, but I would assume with the proper prompts, because I know the capabilities of ChatGPT, that I could have it help create a code for me that I could put into Python, for example, to help me scrape indicators of compromise through an open source portal like Alien Vault, for example, something like that. Or I could take maybe indicators of compromise from Alien Vault and upload it into ChatGPT, and then use that data analytics to be able to scrape and parse that data for me. And that would save me hours of time, where I used to pull down those indicators of compromise. And these would be large data sets sometimes. And I would literally manually go through line by line to see if there was anything suspect, malicious that I could pull out. And then I would research that. And it's very, very manual, but I can see the potential of being able to leverage AI to be able to speed up the threat hunt process within the environment. And there's a ton of potential. So educating yourself on that, there's a ton of free resources out there of understanding the power of AI. And then you're able to put that on your resume, and you're already, in my opinion, a few steps ahead of the other applicants that may not have that capability, for example.
So since we've seen how AI might be incorporated into hiring from those initial candidate screenings and then beyond through the rest of the hiring process, how do you recommend that recruiters, kind of on the other side of this coin, how can recruiters maintain a human touch and that personalized connection throughout the hiring journey so that it doesn't just feel like you're interacting with a robot the whole time?
That is going to be dependent on the organization. I think a key to that, because especially with a lot of these organizations, they're using AI for that initial screening. And I think what we need to be careful of is that we don't completely lose that human aspect, because there are capabilities of using chatbot, for example. And these individuals, instead of having maybe that first initial call with that recruiter before they go into that technical interview, that recruiter is now like a chatbot. Or maybe I know that there's a way that they're using data-driven decisions. And what they're doing is instead of meeting with the candidate right away, they're having the candidate do a test screening. And so think about it. You submitted your resume. You're now in a short list. After that, you're then sent, congratulations, you've made the short list. It probably doesn't say short list, but you get what I mean. You've made this, this initial step, congratulations. Now we would like you to go through a test. And so now they're going through this test, and what'll happen is there's predictive analysis that are in the test that they take that will then either eliminate or move them on to that next level. And then that's when they may talk to a human at that point in time. They may go through another evaluation. I know I've personally gone through a couple of those different tests before. And I think we need to be really careful to not lose that human side, because there is so much that you lose without having this human connection and understanding your candidates. Like, what are their passions? What are their goals? What are they wanting to do within the organization? And I think if we start losing that, what's going to happen and what we're going to see is more and more individuals just getting into the space that are not going to have longevity within the organization. They're just going to come in and see it as a job where they're going to stay for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And we're seeing more and more of that with that younger generation. I think some of that could be associated with the lack of that human connection as they're getting hired on. And then now that they're hired on, now we're working remote. Like, there's all these different factors. So I think human connection is still very, very critical. And I think we need to be more intentional about it now, probably more than ever, just because of how we're moving into this AI digital space, which is making our lives much easier. But we're kind of starting to forget the importance of having human engagement, working with one another, seeing each other in the office.
Right. Just like anything else, I think the integration of AI in the hiring process presents its own set of challenges, right? But it's been good to kind of talk with you about how we can approach those challenges, and then also some of the positives that can come from incorporating AI into hiring. Now, really quick, I did want to ask you, I know you mentioned Outpost Gray at the beginning of the show. We talked about how you're a content creator, podcaster, YouTuber. Are there any social channels for yourself or for Outpost Gray that if people want to go and find out more about you, that they can go visit those channels?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Sophie. So love to provide free education and resources in the space of technology, cybersecurity, and innovation. And I have a YouTube channel, Outpost Gray, Gray. So find me there, subscribe, become part of the community. I'd love to meet you. So this has been a great discussion. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jax, and thank you for sharing some of your insights on how artificial intelligence is impacting that hiring process. And thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. We'll see you next time.